Hello, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Delfino, and today I'm going to be going over competitive League of Legends in North America, specifically focusing on the LCS. I'll be talking about the history, the format, and the teams, and I will be joined by a few guests today. I'm very excited, so let's hop right in. League of Legends is a 5v5 MOBA game, and it's one of the largest esports in the world. In the League of Legends esports scene, there are 12 regions. There are 4 major regions, 2 minor regions, and 6 wildcard regions. The classifications for the regions determines how many teams each region sends to Worlds and is based on regional and international strength. The esports season is from late January to late October. Each region has its own league, and the season is divided into 2 splits, spring and summer. The playoffs format differs between regions, but each region has 1 winner. There are 2 international tournaments each year, MSI and Worlds. So while I was editing this video, Riot released format changes for MSI and Worlds, so I'm gonna link that below, but what's relevant for LCS is that the top 2 teams from LCS in spring go to MSI, and then the top 3 teams go to Worlds, and the 4th seed from both the North American League and the European League will play a best of 5 to determine which team goes to Worlds. Worlds is a really big deal, having multiple stages and big names performing at finals. The location differs year to year, going from Korea to China to North America to Europe, and this year it was in North America. Lil Nas X performed the World Song at the Chase Center in San Francisco for Worlds Finals. Winning Worlds is the largest accomplishment in all of League of Legends esports, and this year's Worlds winners were DRX, a Korean team, which actually rose up through the tournament as underdogs. The LCS is in its 11th year of competition, starting all the way back in 2013 with a few teams mostly held together by verbal agreements and friendship. The league has evolved into a sophisticated, established presence in the North American esports scene. Before I can explain anything about the current league, let's take a trip down memory lane. League of Legends was officially released in October of 2009. The first World Championship was in 2011 and was mostly just groups of people loosely tied together under a name. There were already established teams, but they were few and far in between. The League of Legends Championship Series, or LCS as it's commonly called, started in 2013 with 8 competing teams in both spring and summer split. The number of competing teams would later expand to 10. For the first 5 years, the teams would often change between splits. A team that competed in spring split could disband by summer. In 2018, Riot made the decision to franchise the LCS, meaning that the competing teams would have to submit a proposal and be accepted into the league. This decision offered stability that the league had previously lacked. Organizations can still sell their spots, but it's a much rarer occurrence than before. Franchising was and still is a controversial decision as it got rid of the relegation system, where the bottom teams in the league would have to compete in a tournament and win against outside teams in order to keep their spot. Throughout the 10 years of competition, only 6 teams have ever won the LCS: Cloud9, TSM, Counterlogic Gaming, Team Liquid, 100 Thieves, and Evil Geniuses. The early LCS is dominated by Cloud9 and TSM, the latter having the most titles of any LCS team at 6. Until summer 2021, only 4 teams had ever won. The LCS has a few awards handed out, some during the splits and some at the end of the year. Player of the Week is the best performing player of any given week. A small statue is made of each player of the week and given away to people who guess the player correctly. Most Valuable Player is an award given once per split based on all competitive games throughout the split, so it doesn't count playoffs. All pro teams are chosen at the end of each split, not counting playoffs. The 3 best players in each role are voted, with the best being on the first all-pro team, the second best being on the second, and the third best being on the third. There's also a coaching staff with a split award. Most Improved Player is given to 1 player per year, as is Rookie of the Year. The Korean League, the LCK, and the Chinese League, the LPL, have dominated the league esports scene, being the only regions to have ever won a world title. The LCS typically performs decently internationally, but there have been some outstanding performances from LCS teams in international competition. In 2016, CLG made it to MSI Finals. In 2018, Cloud9 made it to Worlds semifinals, and in 2019, Team Liquid made it to MSI Finals. I think that's enough LCS history for now. Let's move into the current format. The LCS has two splits, spring and summer. The regular season is 8 weeks long, and the teams play a double round robin during the split, meaning each team plays every other team twice. The entire LCS regular season is best of ones. Games are played on Thursdays and Fridays starting at 12 p.m. PST and 3 p.m. EST. There are 5 games per day. The 4th and 8th weeks are super weeks, where an extra day of games are played, so the games take place on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. 6 teams make playoffs in the spring. The teams that were 5th and 6th in the regular season start in the lower bracket. 8 teams make playoffs in summer, and the teams that were 7th and 8th in the regular season start in the lower bracket. Playoffs matches are all best of 5. The losers finals and the grand finals always take place in a different city across North America. The spring finals location hasn't been announced yet, but summer finals is in New Jersey. The top 2 teams in spring playoffs both go to MSI or the Midseason Invitational. The top 3 teams in summer go to Worlds, and the 4th team will play a best of 5 against the European 4th place to determine which team goes to Worlds. The LCS spring split starts on January 26th, 2023. Competition in North America has tiers. The LCS is the highest tier where the most skilled League of Legends takes place. Directly below the LCS is the North American Challengers League, also known as the NACL. To explain the NACL, I'm going to bring in my friend Summer.
Hi, I'm Summer. You may know me as Smax as well. I've been a caster in the NACL now and Proving Ground space for about 2 years now. This will be the 3rd year. And I'm here to talk about some of the new changes in that realm of League of Legends in North America. So a lot of people, you may recognize the Academy League as it has been called for the last couple of years, or the Proving Grounds as well, but that has just been changed. It's now called NACL, or North American Challenger League. There are now those 10 Academy teams that all are associated with an LCS team. They are now called Challenger teams. So you get like TSM Challenger, Cloud9 Challenger, Evil Geniuses Challenger, you get it. And alongside them, the big change is that there are now 6 amateur teams, or as they call them now, provisional teams in the same tournament. This is now a 16 team tournament over the entire split. And 4 of those are actually affiliated directly with LCS orgs. Those are going to be AoE, they're with Golden Guardians, there's FlyFam, there's Team Liquid First, and CLG Faith. And alongside them, there's also Wildcard and Cincinnati Fear. So 16 teams, they all play all of the other 15 teams once in a split, and those are all best of 2. So each team plays 30 games. And over the course of the entire split, you'll have the challenger teams playing up against the new provisional teams, and the provisional teams playing against the provisional teams, challenger teams against challenger teams. It's going to be a really fun time. I'm really excited to watch all of that unfold, but all of that is going to culminate in this really big 16-team double elimination bracket, just like Proving Grounds has been doing for the last couple of years, and it's just, the seeding is just going to be based on your placement in the regular season. And after all of that is done, there's this huge big playoffs. It's going to be an amazing time. That's the end of the spring split. But underneath the NACL tournament, there's also going to be the same amateur circuit that we had for the last couple of years as well. And that whole tournament's going to be pretty complicated. There's a bunch of different format things going on, but basically what you need to know is the 4 best teams from the amateur circuit are going to be playing against the 4 lowest placing teams from NACL, but specifically the provisional teams. You can't have a challengers team place poorly enough to be in this last little bit, because it is a relegation event where the bottom 4 amateur teams from NACL play against the top 4 amateur teams from the other event in the relegation tournament, and the top 4 teams from there go into NACL. So if you don't play well enough as an amateur team in NACL, then you are at risk of being relegated and being removed from the league in favor of one of the teams from the amateur circuit. So that's going to be really exciting as well. That happens after the NACL playoffs, and it's going to be a great time. And then that spring split, it happens again in summer split. So there's going to be a bunch of relegation. There's going to be 2 huge 16-team brackets, double elimination, everything. There's going to be so much action in NACL, and I personally cannot wait to see it. So yeah, I hope you watch it as well. It's going to be a fun time.
Thank you so much, Summer, for talking about NACL. Now let's move on to talking about the LCS teams themselves. This 100 Thieves roster is the perfect mix for old head fans and newer fans such as myself. It's impossible not to be excited for Devlin's return and the promotion of the 2 most hyped rookies in the Academy system. I'd be surprised if this team wasn't a fan favorite. Starting with top, we have Tenacity, an aggressive player always willing to skill check others. Not only is he a very pretty face, he was also the best top laner in Academy last year. He can be volatile, but he is cracked. Next we have Closer in the jungle. He was named the finals MVP in 100 Thieves Summer 2021 run for a reason. He's consistently strong and a leader both in and out of the game. In mid we have Bjergsen, who came out of retirement last year playing for Team Liquid. After not making Worlds, he's more determined than ever to preserve his legacy as the best LCS player of all time. Devlift is making his return to the LCS, and he's coming back with something to prove. 2 years of coach streaming has made him restless, and he's ready to get another trophy. The final member rounding out this team is Busio. He was awarded a very deserved Most Valuable Prospect in the 2022 Academy Summer Split. Known as one of the most creative and mechanically gifted supports in North America, he will live up to his nickname NA Carrier. These 5 players have an incredibly high ceiling, and it's going to be exciting to see them thrive in the LCS this year.
Fans of the Cloud9 organization will be well familiar with the old Cloud9 in Spring meme after the dominant spring performances from the team the last 3 years, 2 of which ended in titles. The less said about the third, the better. This year, Cloud9 is once again going back to the drawing board. Not. The team is running back 4/5 of the roster that won them last summer's LCS title after an improbable playoff miracle run. You're familiar with Fudge, the versatile strong sider, Blabber, arguably closer than ever to being NA's best jungler of all time after his 3rd title, Berserker, a hyper-carry in a sophomore season, and Sven, the cerebral leader in his 2nd split as support. Ziplex, a rookie from the LFL, completes the roster. He's known for his wide champion pool and proficiency on melee mids that should help the Blab-Zerker duo shine. C9 has no slouch coming into this year, and they're ready to become repeat champs to prove it.
CLG kept the same roster they ran for summer 2022. Some might think this makes them less exciting, but I feel the opposite way. After years of disappointment, CLG decided to burn everything down and rebuild from scratch. They put together a team with players that were undervalued, and then managed to go toe-to-toe with the most star-studded rosters in the league, reaching their highest placement since 2019. Dokla is a grinder who made his way back up to LCS by gapping Academy teams so hard they had to give him the MVP. Contracts made every other LCS team look boring by giving CLG some of the earliest first blood times in the league. Palafox styled on people all summer and he made it look easy. Luger is a star. Talented, brilliant, incredible, amazing, show-stopping, spectacular, never the same, totally unique. Poom is criminally underrated. He's mechanically strong, super versatile, and can find game-winning engages. People think this roster is not really that talented, that these players aren't actually that good, that they just cheese their way to wins, that they're Seraphine merchants, they're Johnny One Tricks, their summer success was a fluke. Well, now they get another chance to prove all the doubters wrong once again.
Everyone came out at the end of last year convinced that Dignitas was a dying org that was preparing to sell their spot, but they came out of this offseason with a roster that's many people's dark horse. Armad is coming off a decent LEC performance where Mad faltered in playoffs after an extremely strong regular season. Coming to NA, he should be motivated to crush his competition as the mostly unknown top lane variable this season. Santorin has always been known as a consistent enabling jungle. He's always been a hard worker and a good teammate, and I believe he can perform with this roster. Jensen was part of the team that most recently won the LCS in quite the dominant fashion. If he can carry that momentum into 2023, he can easily be a top 3 mid laner in North America. The Dig ADC is Spawn, who's also the only surviving member of the 2022 Dig roster. He was known in Academy for his team fighting skills, and despite the abrupt nature of his promotion last year, he performed decently. With the stability this roster offers, he has the potential to shine. Finally, we have Ignar, who rose to fame in 2017 after defeating SKT. He's continued to perform well, both in the LEC and LCS, and has had a decent summer split despite his team struggling. He's a perfect player to offer Spawn the support he needs as a newer ADC. The Dig roster was a surprise the most and should be a treat to watch.
18-year-old Canadian mid laner Jojopian is not only the cutest LCS player of all time, but he also earned 2022 Rookie of the Year by rocking the LCS with his exciting, confident, aggressive gameplay and trash talk rarely seen from native NA rookies. He will solo kill the enemy faster than you can say your mom plus ratio, so don't miss out on watching NA's future GOAT. And Polish jungler Inspired is the #1 Jojopian fan. They pull off the silliest shenanigans in and out of game, for example, the Croc synergy. As the LCS MVP of Summer 2022, Inspired proves that you can keep up your form as an import to NA. He's known for leadership, shot calling, and ocean blue eyes. EG were the champions of Spring 2022, and they'll be the champions of Spring 2023 too, with the help of their returning support Vulcan, who's titled the King of Spring, but also the Ratio King for his Twitter ratios. Vulcan is also known for being hot, which is another great reason to watch EG games and content. Don't underestimate EG's new players either. Top laner Someday is the most wholesome, lovable fluffball in real life, but he can hold his own in game too. FBI is a mysterious but capable and angry Aussie ADC. If you hear an overabundance of FBI open up jokes from everyone and their mothers, I'm sorry.
Hello, I'm Curly QQ from Flight Check, the unofficial fancast of Flyquest, and let me tell you why this team is gonna be a banger to watch. Coming in with a roster crafted by one of the most brilliant minds in the LCS, Papa Smithy, Flyquest combines any talent you know and love with some new faces ready to shine. Rising up from LCS Academy with back-to-back Proving Grounds titles, Ayla is here to prove himself in the LCS, supporting the one and only Prince coming to NA with a talent so hot it earned him Player of the Split for LCK Summer 22. The hype only grows with Vikla, whose confident dives and intelligent macro play earned him Rookie of the Year in the LCK last season. Trading NFTs for planting trees, Spica brings a jungling talent that'll make you think the rest of the LCS is just asleep. And to top it all off, Grandpa Impact brings a world-class veteranship to guide the team to victory on the Rift. Under the leadership of Coach Richard and recent world champion Coach Son, Flyquest is ready to take to the skies and leave the LCS in the dust this season.
Golden Guardians was a team I had high hopes for in 2022, but despite making playoffs both splits, they lost in the first round both times. However, a change in coaching staff and management meant change going into 2023, and I believe it's in a good direction. Licorice has almost always been a consistently decent top laner, playing best in good environments, which this roster certainly provides. I think he's been solid for the past couple of years, and I think he'll be solid this year too. The jungler River was a breakout player in the PCS who moved to the LCS last year. He was known for his creative pathing and ganking, especially on his signature Jarvan. Without the chaos of the roster moves from last year, he can play his best and stand out as a top-tier jungler. Gory is the unknown of his roster. He played in LCK, LPL, and PCS, winning LCK Player of the Split in 2021 summer. If he can perform like that in LCS, GG will have a standout mid laner as the carry of their team. Stixxay and Huhi played together on CLG in 2016 when Huhi was still playing mid. They were part of the team that made it all the way to MSI Finals, and reuniting these two feels like the perfect move to round out a solid roster. Huhi is coming off a 3rd All-Pro Team award and 3 back-to-back-to-back finals, so he's ready to try for a 4th. Golden Guardians has managed to build a solid roster under their new management, and fans should keep this team on their radars as a dark horse in the upcoming season. Immortals is coming off a rough 9th place finish last year, however they built a competitive roster for the new season. Revenge is a player that came to the LCS in 2020, but he hasn't really made a splash. He's hungry to make a name for himself, and after a few standout performances last year, I'm confident in his ability to do so. Canby was an exciting addition to this roster in summer 2022, but he struggled to execute a lot of the carry jungling he did in Academy. With a better roster built around him, he can grow into a strong top-tier jungler. The new IMT mid laner, Ablazelov, has had a similar story as Revenge. He came into the scene, and besides being the only other player to be considered for Rookie of the Year in 2021, he hasn't done much since. However, this means he's striving to prove himself, and in this environment, he can do just that. For ADC, we have Tactical, a player who has had some of the highest highs and lowest lows in the LCS. After a less than ideal year with TSM, he's ready to prove himself to be the top tier AD carry that he's always had the potential to be. Fleshy is a relatively unknown variable, but from what we've seen of him so far, he's a very good player. He's one of the few LCS bootcampers to reach town during Korea, and he rose as a top TCL support during his first split of playing competitively. Immortals is a roster that has a lot to prove in the LCS, but they have the chance to make a big breakout this year.
Wins, losses, trophies, tournaments. It's all just a state of matter for Team Liquid Honda. This historical, grassroots organization is seeking redemption after failing to qualify for Worlds last year and are looking to end their 4-year split title drought with a roster that combines the champions of today and legends of tomorrow. Top Laner Summit bodied the LCS's best in spring of last year. Jungler Pioshik shocked the world with DRX after completing the underdog story of the century with their championship run at Worlds 2022. Mid and ADC Harry and Yon have finally been promoted and are ready to dunk on the league like they did LCS Academy. Finally, the franchise support player and literally the core of the team, Core JJ will continue his streak as the LCS's greatest support player. The Blue Cavalry is here and ready to dominate. Let's go Liquid.
A lot of people and TSM fans are negative about the new TSM roster, but I don't share their pessimism. I think the 2023 roster may surprise everyone. Here are just a few reasons to keep an eye on 2023 TSM. This is Chowi's second year as head coach. He received plenty of criticism in 2022, but he had an interview detailing everything he had to go through last year on top of being head coach. 2023 is his first stable year as a TSM head coach. He's qualified, he reached Master in Korean solo queue without a Riot account, so let him cook. There are also many questions about our 5 players. Will Boogie be able to transfer his reputation as a solo queue and minor region terror to LCS? Will Maple be able to dominate North America without the chaos of 2022? Will Chime continue his rise as a future top support? Will Neo be able to recover from the mediocre at best LCS year? Will Solo continue to be the rock and the top lane that this team needs? Even though we've heard a lot of criticism that this team is cheap and TSM fans complain that we haven't gotten any clarity on team building, we still have 5 players in front of us who are ready to go. 3 of them were Grandmasters in Korean solo queue, so let them cook. And if rumors are true, this could be the last year we see TSM as an LCS team, so what's in store for us? A heroic last dance or an embarrassing flop year? With all this talk about the LCS, you may be wondering where and how to find more content about the games, the teams, and the players. The LCS officially broadcasts on Twitch and YouTube. Both streams can be found on the websites themselves or through the LoL Esports website, which I'll link in the description. You can also find the schedule for all the LCS games on there. In addition to the official broadcast, the LCS does content. This or That is a short weekly show where 2 of the broadcast talent do a would you rather style video, choosing between things that are relevant to the LCS. The Dive is a longer form roundtable talk series where some casters and analysts discuss LCS related topics. These are all made by the LCS, but there's content outside the things made by the league. Co-streamers are people who have permission to watch the LCS games live on their own stream, giving a unique perspective outside of what's talked about on broadcast. This year, the LCS is opening co-streaming rights significantly, allowing anyone to apply for it. There's also content made by teams. Each organization has a social media for the LCS teams, including YouTube and Twitter. Some teams upload player content more than others, but checking out these videos is a great way to learn more about the players. Players themselves create content too. Some of them stream and make YouTube and TikTok content. For example, Doublelift and Busio both stream regularly and create content for YouTube and TikTok. Players will also interact with fans on Twitter sometimes. Champions Queue is a system specially made for NA, amateur, and pro players. There's a small server that only these players have access to where they can play high-skill games against one another. There's a website tracking every Champions Queue game and who is streaming them. I will link it in the description. There's a few people who do interviews for the LCS players, Travis Gafford and Nick Garassi to name a few. Travis also does a weekly radio-style show called Hotline League where he and Mark Z, a member of the LCS broadcast, accept calls from viewers and discuss the LCS that week. Sometimes they have guests on, whether it be players, team staff, or LCS staff. Finally, I'll plug my own content. I try to post regularly on YouTube, and most of my content is LCS related. I do stream highlights for my favorite players, tier lists, and more. In addition, I'm part of the NAMN podcast, a casual LCS fan podcast where we talk about anything LCS related that we feel like. In addition to myself, there's a couple other LCS content creators I want to shout out. David Chunuk creates LCS content on TikTok, and Fluff2e often draws the players and posts her art on Twitter. There's much more LCS content than I mentioned here, but these are the basics. Well, that's it for the beginner's guide to LCS. I want to thank everybody who helped make this video. And I want to especially shout out Leaguepedia, made by many. I would not have been able to make this video without that website. It's very, very informative, very helpful if you're wanting to learn anything about LCS, including the history, the current players, basically anything. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and bye-bye.